Good morning, good evening. So I watched a video last week. It was a white guy was talking about how, in essence, he said he's downplaying black people who are talking about Civil War. Now, I have not seen any videos of any people of color on Civil War. And if they are out there, I would probably call that stuff a plant, because we know Trump, that's how he gets down, is by conflict and confusion and chaos, and that's what he does. He's like Trump's like a drunk man in a bar. People like compare him to Nixon, and it's like, no, he's a drunk man in a bar. He's just here to cause a bunch of ruckus, and that's it. So this guy was saying that, like, oh, we got so many guns, and white people are like, we don't, like, basically, like, he's basically downplaying racism, and I didn't want to talk about it because to me it was just so dumb and small-minded and ignorant, and it's clearly a white man that, I tell you, disrespect the white people, don't know any blacks, don't know any gays. This is just they just this whole world of, like, they just want a bunch of free shit. Like, he's that kind of white guy. So I didn't, but today I woke up, I guess in Philadelphia, they had Black Hawks flying around, and they're like flashbangs going off or explosions, I don't know, and something in me just said, it's time. During the 2020 chaos with COVID, Lafayette Park, protests, the summer of rage of George Floyd, his murder, I looked at the world through the white man's point of view, which is that, like, NFAC, what are these black guys doing with all these guns, and they just thugs, and you just want free stuff. And I paid attention to that, and I believed in that. I don't anymore. One thing about this type of Caucasian, I'm not saying all, is their game is and will always be to downplay black pain. It's always to point out inconsistencies. It's always to point out when black people get it wrong, or when they're too loud, or basically it's like this. We're talking about a fire. You're talking about the fire trucks leaving a rut in your lawn. That's the white. That's the white man. Is that we're talking about a fire, and you're like, these fire trucks that came in, woke up my kids, and they made a rut in my yard, and there was a bunch of water and it caused mud in the yard, and my car got dirty that's it. You're never going to be able to rationalize with them, because that will always be their game. This guy's out in the street with no shirt on. That will always be their game. That will always be their game. Always. It will always be about optics with them. I've talked about the white man that killed those elderly black people at that Tops store in Buffalo. That I knew before I left work that day that he wrote nigger on his gun. And he wrote his reparations on his gun. I know that. I knew that. And I went home to see Tucker Carlson say he was the downplay it. That it's black folks' fault, talking about racism, and people saying, well, the security guard should have had arm-piercing ammo because he had a vest on. And that's the white man. And that's my why. That's my understanding of, okay, you're killing us now. This isn't like Trayvon Martin. This isn't like bad. This is you killing innocent black people because it suits your narrative. And you will have people, like I said, who downplay it and also uphold the better parts of white supremacy while downplaying the dumb parts of black power, the mistakes we make, the missteps, the financial improprieties in businesses, whatever. That's why he's going to war with Chicago. That's why he's in D.C. That's why he's talking about he's going to go into New Orleans. I saw that. That's why he's talking about he went to L.A. That's why. They're at war with us. And I just understand now what those kind of Caucasians think. It really doesn't matter. Because you will always find a little mud, a little dirt when it comes to these type of things. When the president is saying he can arrest governors and he can deport American citizens and he's picking up kids without an attorney present in their immigration hearings, When the American president has ICE pointing guns at crowds and throwing flashbangs in the crowds, it's not coming, it's already here. As I said, that this stuff in Philly, whatever they're doing with the Black Hawks flying all over the city and stuff, it's just a reminder that, as I said, this kind of white guy, he will always find some kind of way to make our fears look stupid. To basically be like, this kind of Caucasian will always find a way to mock the victim. Because ultimately, here's white people, here's the reality of white people. If Trump does this stuff, will it hurt them? No. They don't live in Chicago or Detroit or LA. They don't know anyone who lives in those places. So even if they're wrong and Trump does do it, and as I've said before, ICE goes in there, a car backfires, it shoots somebody or something, these Caucasians don't care. They'll move on to the very next argument because that's their game. You're not dealing with rational people here, folks. You're dealing with people who are constantly looking for something to point the finger at. That's it. And I just think it's important to remember that that's their game. People like Tucker Carlson, it's a term, sarcastic terrorism, where they'll say things and do things that's white supremacy. But I went to college to learn how to talk like this, and I use big words, and I have shined up wingtip shoes, and my pants are pressed. You see, it's still white supremacy. You can wear dark-siders and grow your hair out. Like white man said, it's still hate. It's nothing more than hate. It's nothing less than hate. You can't, you can't, a zebra's a zebra. You can paint them, it's still a zebra. Stripes or no stripes. For me, we're not talking about civil war as that we want it. We're talking about civil war because it's outside the door. That's why he's going into, and then look at it. The most violent blue cities, I'm gonna say black, excuse me, are in red states. But you don't want to go in there because so much of Republican politics is based upon disaffected white people. Disaffected white people. I don't know any gay people. I don't know any blacks. I don't know any Muslims. I don't know any Jews. I don't know I just know that what you're doing raises my taxes or lowers my taxes. And if you think like that and you move like that and you live in that kind of a world that thinks that way, you don't see what's going on in the world outside because the world is not white. You don't see it. And then they've made it to where it's a war on you. And then what Trump said, and not really after me, they're after you. Tapping into that white right revangism. See? I just like I said, it's just so much of my life is, why can't you see the struggle and the pain of others? And as I get old, I guess it's like, oh God, or whatever it is, but just realizing that we'll never see eye to eye. Because I understand that your politics is based upon you not understanding other people's struggle. It will always be of, I'm sorry, your politics, your philosophy, and your way of life will all be based upon minimizing mine and minimize people who don't look like you or are different than you. And as long as that's the case, you'll have Black Hawks flying over Philly. You'll have Marines in LA pointing guns in the crowds. Excuse me, you have ICE pointing guns at crowds and throwing flashbangs in the crowds. You will have that because you're unable to see. And then it's also that you realize that Constitution for white people. It really is. Constitution for rich white people. It always was. And so what they're doing is, they know that. And white people are no longer pretending that like, oh, everybody was a melting pot. You don't know. You don't believe that. You know, it's also the acknowledgement of a racist system and the maintenance of that said system. No one wants civil war. But when you've got Black Hawks flying over Philly, you've got armed ski masked gunmen kidnapping kids and kidnapping people and pointing guns at crowds, and the president gives them a budget more than the U.S. Marine Corps, it's hard not to see that as civil war. As you're cutting everything else to help poor people, and marginalized peoples. It's hard not to see it as a war on black and brown people. It's hard not to see it as a war on the little bit of black power you have. Not much, the little bit in these cities. And just a reminder, when I hear stuff like this, it's like, sometimes I don't say anything about it, but the stakes are too high. The stakes are too high for us to remain silent in the face of injustice.